Hi, we're here to talk about English courses at Baxter Academy. My name's Caitlin Vermalo, and I go by she, her pronouns.
Hi, I'm Rebecca, and I use she, her pronouns.
Hi, I'm Brienne Lucy. I go by Ms. Lucy with students, and I also use she, her pronouns.
Next slide. This is a table that outlines our course progression for English courses. You will notice that we don't just go by 10th grade, 11th grade, 12th grade English, but we encourage students to choose classes based off the genres that they're interested in reading or writing, and also based on their skill level. We do encourage all ninth graders to take our English 100 level English class, which allows students to create a foundation for their high school experience and also to build community with other ninth graders. Next slide, please. These are some of the books that we've read over the last 8 years with our Baxter students. You'll notice that we choose books that fit into the classics, but also are more modern. We encourage students to access audiobooks as well as print. And we choose books that really help students think about, discuss, and ask questions about the world around them. Next slide.
The curriculum here is really skills-based. So in ELA, we're focusing primarily on building 3 skills, writing, reading, and speaking and listening. So our classwork and projects and assessments are really designed to encourage students to build on these skills. So these are just some examples of some of the writing projects that we do. As you can see, it's not just traditional, analytical essays, even though we often have that type of writing. We also encourage students to do creative writing or more low stakes writing like blogs or writing for podcasts or things like that. Next slide, please. For speaking and listening, we have lots of different types of class discussion, and we also have small group or table discussions, and we use models like the Harkness model or Socratic seminars in order to make sure the discussions are really student-driven and based off of student interest. And then we also do a lot of presentation in order to help students learn how to communicate in that way. Next slide, please. We also do a variety of other projects to help students with different learning styles and allow students to express themselves in lots of different ways. For example, in my Dystopia Utopia class, one project I do is students design a book cover for the novel we're reading so that they can think about sort of the visual language, like what images or symbols or how do they communicate the mood of the book effectively, so as if they're trying to redesign the cover themselves. And we also sometimes do things like having students make infographics in order to think about sort of visual communication. Next slide.
Yeah, so now we want to give you a sense of what kinds of writing and reading students might do in ninth grade. So we're going to invite you to actually do an activity, a writing activity that ninth grade students might do. A lot of ninth grade English is trying to get students to understand who they are as writers and develop their writing identity and to imitate other writers and build their writing skills. So if you are willing to do this with us, please grab a notebook or even a stray piece of paper. And the first thing we're going to ask you to do is to write 2 lists in your notebook. So one list is going to be things you used to do at school or at work. So being in the hallway, talking with friends at lunch, those kinds of things. And another list is going to be things that you do now that we're in the middle of a pandemic. So for example, on my list, this is a picture of my classroom where I used to go every day. I might write about what I see, what's there, what I used to do. And in my list, on my other list, I would write about things that I do now at school. What does school look like now? There's a timer right here. If you're doing this activity along with us, you can hit pause on the video in a moment, start the timer, and then return to the video when you're ready for the next step. So here's the next step. We're going to meet our mentor author for today, and I'm going to ask my colleagues to read this poem out loud so that we can hear it. So Caitlin, could you read this first stanza? And Rebecca, could you read the second stanza?
We used to fly rainbow kites across skull caps of ours, holes on blue wings, of the canvas of sinking suns. Running winged eyes locked to wind, we'd unwind the kite, string up and away, then run them down blue tapestry, up the sky again, then down, until a sinking sun rolled down into a swallowing sky.
Today, we fly words as kites across pages of winds, through skies as poems we shape from holy, bloody adjectives and nouns. We loop into sound circles, ringing like a clips, the sun's tongue.
Thank you. Now that we've heard this poem spoken out loud, we're going to try to notice certain things about it. So what do you notice about how the poem is set up? What are some words that stand out to you? Are there any interesting descriptions that you want to take note of? What do you notice about the choices that this author, Quincy Troop, made? So in your notebook, take a couple minutes and just jot down anything that you notice that seems interesting to you. So pause the video, and when you are ready to return, we're going to do some writing. All right, now we're going to try to write using Quincy Troop's poem as a mentor text for our own writing. So if you go back to the poem, you'll notice that it's in two distinct sections. The first starts with "we used to," and the second stanza starts with "today we." We're going to go back to that list that you made back at the beginning of this session, and you're going to try to incorporate some of those things that you used to do in your first stanza, just like Quincy Troop does, and your list from the second list in the second stanza of things that you do now. I'm going to ask you to write for about 8 minutes if you're doing this activity along with us, and to try to write for the entire time and not judge yourself too much. This is just your first attempt at this poem. So pause the video when you're ready, and we're going to return in a minute. Great, thanks. So if you did the writing along with us, we now would ask you to pause and reflect. How did that go? Was that easy or difficult? How did it feel to write this piece? And then if you feel brave, turn to somebody next to you who you care about and share your entire piece, or even just one line that you're proud of that you wrote. We think it's really important for writers to share their writing and to also reflect on their writing process. So that's an activity that students might do in 9th grade to kind of figure out who they are as writers. And we hope that you enjoyed doing that activity along with us. And thank you.